Your entire list, every single opt-in subscriber is important. Okay, you want to treat them like they're gold. So for example, if someone opts in and let's say in a couple hours they don't open up the first email, I might send them an email that literally just says
email marketing. That's what I want to know.
the thing that everybody thinks is dead.
That's my son! My boy!
Everybody's so focused on, social media and getting followers, they forgot the most powerful thing in marketing, which is building a strong, engaged email list.
Okay, so what is the first tip, from your knowledge of email marketing that can help someone?
I mean, I wouldn't look at it as first tips. I just think that there's, several things you want to be thinking about, right? The first thing is understanding your audience. I call it the Gekko effect, the Gordon Gekko effect. We can talk about that later. Another thing is understanding how to segment your list. And then I would say the last phase of good email is just the automation process. A lot of people think automation is just sending out an email on autopilot, but there's so many strategies behind automation. If you can master those three things, you can grow any business.
So Gordon Gekko, that Gordon Gekko effect that you mentioned,
Right.
Just explain that a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. First of all, you ever seen Wall Street?
Yeah.
The Gordon Gekko effect, it's simple. So Gordon Gekko, he was a broker in the movie Wall Street, and he made a lot of money, billions of dollars, and the way that he would do it was by taking advantage of inside information. And I think that people today, when it comes to building their email list, they don't understand all of the advantages you have by building an email list. For example, when you get someone to give you their name and email, typically you know why they did that. So you would have created a lead magnet, you would have been having a webinar, and a person would have provided that information because they wanted something. So you can gather a lot of information based off that action. So I always think to myself, what would Gordon Gekko do with that information? So for example, if I'm having a webinar or I have a lead magnet on like lead generation, for example, or even email marketing strategies, if someone opts in to get that information about email marketing strategies, I pretty much know that this is an individual trying to build their list or trying to sell something. I can get a lot of information. I'd have a lot more than what Gordon Gekko would have had that would have made him billions. And I think people forget about that. They just look at it as a name and email, but they don't realize that an email address is like the first micro transaction. I talk about it all the time. You've heard me, say like if you were to walk outside right now
In the alley.
in an alley, and someone were to walk up to you and ask you for your email address, you'd be like, heck no, I don't know you. And that's why if someone gives you their email address and you take a step back and realize how much power that is, you realize that's the first micro transaction. You're like 50% of the way to the sale because you already know why they did it.
That makes
Right?
sense.
So, the Gordon Gekko effect is powerful. Now, when you go deeper into that, do you remember that book that came out a few years ago? Like every girl in America was talking about, like the 5 love languages or something like that. Basically, it's you figuring out what your love language is for like your significant others.
Okay.
Like I remember some of them was like physical touch. Some of them was like giving gifts or whatever. So for example, if you are a person that likes gifts, but your significant other is more of a touchy-feely type person, and that's what she likes, so that's what she's doing to you, and you're like not a touchy-feely type of person,
Right.
It's not gonna work. So she wouldn't understand her customer because you're not into touchy-feely. You want some gifts, right?
Right.
So I think that when you understand the Gordon Gekko effect,
Yeah.
you understand why they're opting in, it gives you a lot more ammunition to provide to your list what it is that they want.
All right, so the next thing you talked about was segmenting your list.
Now that you understand like your audience, right? You know what it is they like, you know their love language, right?
Yep.
So now it's time for you to segment your list, right? Because it's like, for example, how many friends do you think you have in your life?
Like I would say like friends.
Just
probably like 100,
100, right?
Yeah.
But you probably talk to how many people?
like 5.
Right, you've segmented that list.
Yeah.
So people don't do that with their email list. Your entire list, every single opt-in subscriber is important. Okay, you want to treat them like they're gold. Years ago, Sean Stevenson was speaking at Funnel Hacking Live, and he was talking about like when people like are in a boat or whatever in the ocean and it goes down. So visualize this: there's all these people swimming, drowning, trying to survive.
Right.
All of a sudden, this plane or helicopter comes out, and it can only save 100 people. So the question is, who do they save?
The ones that swim out to it.
Right, the ones that swim towards the towards the helicopter or the plane, right? So it's the same thing with your email list and why you segment. There's going to be a certain segment that's going to open up more stuff. And if you've ever seen that, I think it was actually started off as an article. It was 1,000 true fans. There's a lot of videos about it.
It was a book too.
Right, it was a book. Yeah. And they talk about you really only need 1,000 true fans. You're building this list. You want to give them value. You want to pay attention to the people that are paying attention to you. But regardless, there's going to be people that are paying more attention. So when you can segment out that list, okay, then you can make a lot of money. And that's where you hear those stories about people that had a list of 5,000 people and made $1 million.
Right.
Because they understand this. They know their audience. They understand how to segment their list. They understand how to provide, value, and they're able to move forward from that.
So that makes sense. So definitely, it's not all about quantity, but it's the quality of your list. For sure.
Absolutely. I wouldn't. Quantity is important, but I think that it's just important to understand the list. Let me give you another example. So when I was in real estate, I was a party animal. So I was partying every day of the week, it seemed like. And we would go to this club all the time. When we first started going to the club, we had to stand in line. Or you had to go buy a bottle, right? A table to get up front. But at that time, we were going out so much, we weren't gonna get a table every single time. But we did a few times. We got a table and we got in and we got into the club and we were really cool. We weren't jerks and being mean to the staff. And then we started to I started to bring more people in that had money, and they started to spend more money, and they weren't, mean and bad people. They were cool. So the staff started to know us. The bartenders started to know us. People working at the front started to know us. And the next thing you know, we never had to stand in line anymore. When you understand segmenting your list, okay, that's how you're moving. You need to be normal, be cool, add value, offer things that can help them, realize why they opted in the first place, and eventually you just walk right in the door.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. That is a good way to put it.
Absolutely.
Basically, bring in the people that you want.
Absolutely. Oh, I like sales that pop up.
Another sale?
Yep.
It is from the email list. See, there you go. Perfect example of the power of an email list.
That was not staged.
Not staged at all, actually. Nope. All right, and then the third thing you talked about was automation, as it's happening right now.
Put that down. Automation, it's all about strategy. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Most people think of automation as, okay, I'm going to get someone to opt into my list and I'm going to email out 7 emails, over 7 days and just push them back to the product. And they typically all are the same, right? The email will be hey, thanks for opting in. And then it'll be follow me here. And then it'll be time is running out. And then they start doing all these scarcity things and they're just trying to get you to buy. But they're not really utilizing strategy. They're just thinking if I just keep emailing enough to buy, then that's automation. That's not automation. You want to have strategy, right? So there's some fun things that you can do, and it's kind of ties into segmentation as well. So one thing I like to do is on the first email, I want to make sure that the person's opening up the email, right? Because if someone's not opening up my email and I continue to email them over time, and that list continues to grow of people that aren't opening up the email that I send out, that's not good for your CRM. Okay, you're gonna start showing up not in inbox and in spam. So what you wanna do first off is set up some filters to where if you're sending emails, people opting in and they're not opening up emails, let's say after 30 days, you automatically scrub and remove them from the list.
Okay.
The goal is, is to get people off the list. I know that, what do you mean? Some people are afraid to email because they're afraid people are gonna unsubscribe. Again, if you stay true to that idea of 1,000 true fans, right? Then if they're not a true fan, they're not opening up your email, why do you have them on your email list? Number 2, meet them where they're at. I like to do a couple of things. So for example, if someone opts in and let's say in a couple hours they don't open up the first email, I might send them an email that literally just says, oops.
I've seen you done that, yeah.
Yeah, so it says oops, and then most people are gonna open, what does it mean, oops, right? And then I will mention something to them, hey, a few hours ago I sent you X email, I know life gets in the way, you missed it, hey, be sure to check this out. I wanna give them a reason to opt in, and I wanna meet them where they're at. So that's an example of strategic sending out an email. And then the last thing I would think about email marketing is, I know that if someone's not buying something, they either have questions that aren't answered, okay, they don't feel like it's gonna help them, right, get what it is they want. Because at the end of the day, if I said give me, $1,000 and I'll give you $10,000, would you give me $1,000?
Yeah.
If I said give me $10,000 and I'll give you $100,000, would you do it?
Yes.
Right. So those are the kind of pickles you want to put your customers in. But a lot of times it's always one-sided. So think about it this way: have you ever watched a baseball game? And, you see someone get caught in a pickle? that is how you want to think about how can you put your leads in that situation. So one of the ways that I do it is I just go to a board and I write down every objection that a customer could have. And then I try to organize them in order. And then once I organize them in order, I then set up the autoresponder to send out that objection, that question that they may have. I try to answer it, and then I put them in a pickle. So it's basically like you had this objection, you can keep having that same objection, or you can leverage this to fix it. And sometimes there's no answer to the objection. Sometimes it's just an objection that you can't fix. And then I'm honest about that. Hey, I know you might have this objection. I'm sorry, there's nothing that you can do with that problem. It's just, it is what it is, but here's how I work around it. And people really like that because they feel like you understand them.
Right.
And you can only do that when you know your audience, which is going back to the first point we talked about.
Now, for someone that is just starting out with email marketing, there may be a newbie, a beginner, how can you best explain this to just kind of like hit it home for them?
So number one, just understand that your email list is distribution power. Distribution meaning like you own that list, you can push a button and you can put that message in front of that individual instantly. You own it. Let me give you like an example of what I mean by distribution. And I'll even utilize an example not even having anything to do with email, right? So for example, McDonald's in the movie Founders, you see that movie?
Yep.
They talk about like how McDonald's, they were a burger joint, but more importantly, they were a real estate company. And they had a strategic plan. They would put their McDonald's restaurants in strategic locations with a lot of traffic where people would drive by and see it, and that's how they were able to scale. So a lot of people say McDonald's isn't a burger place, it's a real estate company, right? And that was how they leveraged distribution. They knew X number of people were coming through, were driving by, therefore their brand was able to explode, right? That was then. What are they doing today? So I actually saw this was on the news like actually yesterday, and McDonald's now has a new app. Apparently the app allows you to go on the app and order what you're gonna order at McDonald's, so when you show up, it can track you where you are and literally time it to where the food is hot and ready when you get there. Now, besides the craziness of the fact that, again, your phone's tracking you and know where you are, why is McDonald's doing that? What pickle have they put you in, right? You can go to McDonald's and have food that comes out cold, that's been sitting out, or you can have hot food that's, piping hot, tastes better and all that by simply using the app. Right, that's the pickle. But what's the benefit to McDonald's? The fact that they're building a list.
Right.
With the push of a button, they have more distribution power. So now imagine they have all these real estate companies, meaning their restaurants,
right.
all this foot traffic. You walk up to go order something, they tell you about the app, and now they move you from just driving by coming in to now having you on their list and being able to communicate with you. Instant distribution power. That's what you have with your email list.
That makes sense. So in that case, they can send notifications for deals or things like that directly to each customer.
Directly and track you.
And track you. That's powerful.
It's powerful.
Wow.